Fact-checking and corrections are encouraged.
Can we get a cup of coffee in here, please?
Damn good coffee and hot.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking. That's right, sunshine. Just put on a big pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hate mail with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? Well, we've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with the Dog. You make me laugh.
Well. You make me laugh. If it's possible for me to laugh. What the hell is going on in this stream now? Okay. Well, geez, every day there's more technical difficulties. I have you here waiting for the rock band to just chill out. Rock band. I don't know. Maybe they lose a little energy yesterday. Maybe it's me. Been up all night. Good morning, folks. It is Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. Still not feeling like spring here at all. Another gray, rainy day. Below average temperatures, and we're still waiting for spring here in the Northeast. Can't speak for the whole Northeast, but where I am on Long Island, New York. Anyway, it's great to have you here today. Great day to be alive. I did not get any sleep. None. Up all night. Some things happened last night that got me distracted. First of all, I want to say sad news about Gordon Lightfoot. Now, gotta say about Gordon Lightfoot, because at 84 years old, fabulous life, interesting life, a legend in Canadian folk circles, and a changing perspective in the pop world, and memories of what his music meant to different people at different stages in their lives. Because when I was a kid when his music, well, I was a kid when I first heard his work in the late 60s. But as we grew older, the airwaves, when we were making the transition from AM to FM, and this is a history lesson for young people out there, Gordon Lightfoot was considered easy listening music. Music that wouldn't hurt your ears. That's easy listening. And not necessarily all that respected by rockers. As time went on and we got older, we learned to really have respect and admiration for his music. But I'm seeing a lot of people remember, I was always a big Gordon Lightfoot fan. Now, of course, there were again, he was on the easy listening chart. So his original fans were the early boomers, the people older than me. When I see young people saying they grew up and were always fans of his, I'm like, you know what? It doesn't jive with my memory. A lot of people thought Square when they heard Gordon Lightfoot's music, and to some extent, it was kind of ridiculed, as because of his singing style was always, you know what it was. I'm not going to try and imitate it now, especially since I haven't slept well. But it was a little over the top with his baritone, very Canadian delivery. Not to disparage the man at all. He was a great artist, and in time, all of those of us who took a little time to get to know him, got to appreciate his music over the years, and guys became a legend. And so it's kind of sad to see legends pass. 84 years old. It's a good long run. And may he rest in peace. I hope he didn't suffer long. Uh, Now, there was some folklore, and I was under the impression that Gordon Lightfoot was invited to be on The Last Waltz. So if you're not familiar with The Last Waltz, one of the great um, rock and roll rockumentaries, one of the first really significant ones, directed by Martin Scorsese, featuring the band and many guests. A lot of them Canadian because the band was a Canadian band for the most part, except for Dylan and Levon. But and they were friends with Gordo, and Robbie Robertson, who was really instrumental in putting that whole show together with Bill Graham and Martin Scorsese. Um, they were big fans of Gordo and held him in super high esteem. And so what I believed about that was Gordon was invited and had prior commitments and couldn't make it. Now that turns out not to be true. I was reading up on it last night because there's still a lot of people who love that film who hate the fact that Neil Diamond was in there, and a lot of people were speculating they should have swapped out Neil Diamond for Gordon Lightfoot. Don't know if that was an option ever. The reason Neil Diamond was included over Gordon Lightfoot was Robbie Robertson had just produced a record for Neil Diamond. And there's a lot of stories about animosity and the people there who supposedly did not have a whole lot of respect for Neil Diamond. Now, in Neil Diamond's defense, he is one of the iconic writers from the early years of rock and roll, and a songwriter who deserves to be recognized on a big stage like that. Now, maybe he wasn't really primed for the demographic, which was the hippie movement that were big fans of the band at the time. Maybe they weren't big fans of Neil Diamond at the time. He was an AM radio guy. He was a guy who wrote for a lot of other people, but he was a major star. And so I don't know what's true. Apparently, him and Dylan had some words backstage at the show, and he told Dylan how hard it was going to be to follow him. Who knows how much of any of that is true? I'll put this out there: you certainly can't take Bob Dylan's word for anything ever. And that's Dylan is a guy who's been known to just fabricate things and just like run wild and fancy with the truth. So you never know. Lots of stories about that. But uh bottom line is I don't think Gordon Lightfoot was ever invited to be on that show. Anyway, rest in peace, Gordon Lightfoot. Music will live forever, I think. Who knows? I mean, it'll outlive us. I'll say that much. So there's that. As I mentioned, I did not sleep well last night. Got the good coffee back. That's good. Good cold coffee. Cancel culture and the things that have been going on in my life reared its ugly head somewhere around late last night. I guess maybe 10, 11 o'clock. I will backtrack for you. Last September, I was working part-time helping out a local video production company that was transitioning a trans media company, a transitioning from primarily a real estate videography and film company and photo company to a more artistic type of thing, and was branching out and doing some more creative stuff. And I was helping out, and then And I was only putting a couple hours a day here and there, and just yeah, I think you witnessed it. It was when Zach Wiseman was subbing for me in the morning. There was a lot of stuff going on where I couldn't be here. I was off shooting or video editing or whatever I was doing for them. Couple of weeks into that, the person who was running the new social media department for them quit, and the owner of the studio was at a loss, and he said, "I need somebody to run this department. Can you do it?" And I did not want to do it. I did not want to do it, but I saw the shortcomings of the plan and spelled it out, and was basically drafted to do it. And I wasn't happy in it. And so he started to branch out into doing social media for restaurants, and asked if I could, help with that, and be a liaison between the restaurant owners and the content creators. And I agreed to do it on the short term, with the idea that there would be an exit strategy, which I had not quite figured out yet. So I was doing it for a while, and as about a month ago, I was like, I'm done. I mean, there's no more I can do with this, and I don't like dealing with the personalities, the restaurant owners, because they're as flaky and weird as musicians and comedians and people in the arts, believe it or not. And I just didn't. Wasn't for me. I've done that. Tired of it. But if you're aware of my activities on Facebook, for especially last year and to some extent the year before, I like to have some fun with my friends who are Met fans. And basically, I'm all over the place. Like, 1 minute, the Mets are the greatest team that ever were put together, and then the next minute, they are the worst team ever put together. And my friends understand that, and they kind of like wear it. At first, they were a little confused by it, but then they came to realize, I'm just busting balls and having some fun here. Turns out one of the restaurants chains that were clientele of the company that I was doing some work for. Uh, the executive chef, guy named Tom Fazio, is a Met fan, and he got his feelings hurt by reading my post. Now he claims that he was not intentionally following me, but when I took over the account and all the stuff got hooked up into my social media stuff, that the algorithm automatically showed in my post. That's a complete lie, fabrication. He friend requested me. I have it in my activity report, the actual date and time when he friend requested me. I said okay, and then he started monitoring my page, which he denies, but the proof is there. And I said something. I made a joke about the Mets, New York Mets. This is a businessman. Keep this in mind. Made a joke about the New York Mets on my personal Facebook page, and he tagged the CEO of the studio and said, "This is why you're going to lose your account," on my joke about the Mets. So, in other words, he was ready to sever a business relationship with a studio over what somebody who was working with that studio said on their personal private page about a baseball team that he's a fan of, which is pretty fucking pathetic. It was, in all uh, transparency, an effort to shut me up. I'll make him stop telling jokes about the Mets. I love my Mets, and make him stop. Shut him up. I wasn't having it. I had already resigned by that time. I resigned 4 days before that. But the intent was to get me fired, canned, shut up, silenced. I let that go. I said, I made a comment that, like, I can see why they don't have um, open open mic for comics at the ballpark. Comedy night at the ballpark. That was my comment at the time, and I let it go. And the guy continued to make some snide remarks on my on post. And then last night, out of nowhere, I posted a thing, as I do. And if you follow me on Twitter, you've seen the same post on Facebook. It was about I miss you can be as powerful as the phrase I love you, in impact and meaning to somebody. But the reason nobody ever told me I missed you is because I never go away. And it was kind of a joke. And the guy chimes in, he says, "Dude, do you have any followers? No, you don't get any likes on your thing." Like, why are you even here? That's a punk ass comment to make. First of all, why are you monitoring my page for how many likes my Facebook posts get? And what annoys you about me saying I miss you can be as powerful as I love you, right? But the guy's gonna make a big deal over it. So I finally had enough of this guy, and I said, what are you here for with these punk ass comments? Take your punk ass comments and get lost. He takes a snapshot of that and posts it on his Facebook page, and again tags the CEO of the studio I was working with a month ago, and some douchebag fucking real estate agent, lawyer wannabe kid who used to work for him. God knows why he tagged him in it, to like as if he's my superior and he's going to shut me up in some way. And like I said, and the kid chimed in. He's like, Matt, get a life. Matt, get a life. I have a life. I was living my life, minding my own business. This butthurt Met fan wants to shut me up, and he's a fucking pussy for doing it. Of the way he went about it, passive aggressive. I'm going to tell you, boss, I'm going to get you fired. Fuck you. So now, Jacob says, get a life. And I said, fuck you. You don't know what's going on. You don't know the story here. You don't know that this fucking dick tried to get me shut up, silenced. Part of cancel culture, the idea, the people who bitch and moan loudest about free speech are the first to, when they get offended or hurt, butthurt, want to shut you the fuck up. Well, fuck you, Tom Fazio. I'm not shutting up. So then he starts texting me that he wants to meet me and fight me because I called him a pussy. Listen, if you're going to, you think that's the way to resolve this, I'm not going to, I said, you know what? I have, because his main area of business is in Patchogue on Main Street. And I'm playing 2 doors or 3 doors down on Sunday. I said, I'll be there Sunday. You want to come and take a swing at me? Go ahead. Both of us are probably going to end up in jail or dead or in the hospital. But if that's the way you want to settle things, if you feel you need to prove you're not a pussy, I'll be there. I'll be there for all of it. Listen, people have taken swings at me. People have shot me and stabbed me. I'm still fucking here. I'm twice your age, but I'm willing to stand there and call you a pussy if that's what you want, so you can take your first shot, and then we'll see what happens from there. So, bottom line is, Sunday, I'm expecting a grown man who runs a business to come down and to my gig where I'll be performing and take a swing at me for calling him a pussy over him being a passive aggressive pussy and trying to get me shut up and silenced because of a fucking baseball team. Guy's name is Tom Fazio. He runs a place called That Meatball Place, which has, I believe, 3 locations, 2 on Long Island and 1 in Farmingdale. He's an executive chef. He's got a lot to lose. He's a young man with a family. He's got a lot to lose. He's going to attack me at a performance on Sunday. I'll look forward to it. That's all I can say. So, next week, if you're looking for me, I might not be here. I might be in jail. Could be dead. Could be in the hospital. And or charged with murder or assault or something like that. So that's where, and that would really suck because I did not pin down Robert Klein on a date yet, and I really would like to interview Robert Klein before I go to jail or get murdered or get put in a hospital or whatever happens on Sunday. That's all I wanted, just to talk to Robert Klein. After that, I'm fine with whatever the future holds for for that situation. Um, so that's where that is now. Guy was texting me back and forth. Oh, I'm really upset that you called me all these names. I called you names because you like what's worse, getting called a pussy or somebody actually trying to shut you up by getting you fired or putting pressure on. And this is what he thought he was doing. He didn't know I had already resigned. He thought he was canceling me and then continuing to stalk you so they could say shit about you. Guy was never a friend. Never once said, "Hey, I'm really upset about your Met post. Can you explain why you do that?" Which would have been the not necessarily manly thing, but the right thing to do. So I'm pissed about that. That's one of the things that kept me up that night. And I shouldn't give him any I don't know credit in keeping me up at night because it was really not really about that. It was about a lot of things, but that was one of them. Let me see what I'm getting here. Hold on one second. Got some people texting me about my availability this week. Well, it's this week I have availability. I'm still alive and not in jail. So, um, Erica Rhodes last night. Erica, now this is all public. There was um, nothing behind the scenes, no DMs or anything about this or anything like this. Last night, Erica Rhodes was, I guess, recovering from her weekend gig back home, feeling in her place, and she, as she does often, writes funny tweets. And one that caught my eye was she wrote on Twitter, "My friends really want me to make it, so I'll stop hanging out at their houses." And I replied, "That's funny, but most of the comedians I know or talk to think you are an example of making it. I would hate to be someone looking to make it a life in comedy and get the notion that Erica Rhodes hasn't made it. You represent what so many aspire to be." And now that is absolutely true. If you know, like, there are several levels of the comedy ladder of success, and I've had them all on this program. But unless you're really at that top level, the Robert Kleins, the Doug Stanhopes, the Steve Burns, I don't know. I'm just grasping at thoughts here. Tommy Chong. I'm just thinking of the people who have actually made big money in comedy that I've had on the show. Unless you're one of those, you're at the point where Erica Rhodes represents to you, if you know her, and many of them do know her, know about her through me because I've been singing her praises for the last 2 years or so here. If you know of her, you look at her and say, "Wow, that is somebody who's making it." First of all, she really loves comedy. That's apparent because when I had her on the program and kind of talked about that, this life in comedy, she really enjoys making people laugh. And she's doing that for a living. And she's become, over time, put in the dues and worked it and written really great material and performs it perfectly because she's also got acting skills and all that kind of stuff. She's acquired mastery. And I think that's what most comedians, if you're thinking with a um, artistic mindset, that's what you want to be. You want to be master of your craft, and you want to be able to make a living. So that's what I put out there. Once again, I'll read my reply to what I said. That's funny, but most comedians I know or talk to think you are the example of making it in quotes. I would hate to be someone looking to make a life in comedy and get the notion that Erica Rhodes hasn't made it yet, because to me, that's what making it is all about. And then so you represent what so many aspire to be. And she replied, I can't, I'll have to find her reply here. Um, she'll reply. Um, where was the reply? I've lost it now. I guess making it doesn't include dollars then. Now, dollar sign. I would say that nobody. Here's the thing. You and I have people we admire in show business, and we like to assume, or we tend to assume, that if they've been on television, you've seen their face on television, they're financially set for life. These are, anybody we see on the box, we tend to think they're rich. If they're famous, they're rich, and she is famous, uh, at least with the and more famous than I even knew, because my brother told me everybody he talked to in his North Carolina circle knew of her and were fans of her. So but we don't know what they make. Yeah, and for somebody like her, I mean, it's not like it's public record. Like Dave Chappelle, you could look up his worth. Joe Rogan, you could look up his worth. And there's no reason you should, and don't bother. But I'm just saying, so when she says, well, making it doesn't always include dollars then, and that's absolutely true to some extent. Now, I think you have to be able, this is why it was a concern to me and why I felt it was an important conversation to have. I understood it was a joke, and it was a funny joke that she started out with, that people want her to make it so that she gets off their couch. I get that. But so many of the comedians that have been on here are focused on making it. And like, well, define making it. What does it mean to make it? Make it in comedy. Well, I think yesterday I touched on this. If you can pay your bills and in a comfortable fashion, now this is my definition, not necessarily has to be everybody's definition of making it, what it means to make it. If you pay your bills in a comfortable fashion and to create the art that you want to make without anybody else's foot on your neck, boot on your neck, making you, you know, do things the way they want you to do it. You are a free agent and in charge of your own destiny, artistic wise. You love what you're doing for the most part. There's parts of it, you will always have parts of it you don't love, but you love what you're doing. You love performing, and you're getting paid enough to support yourself. That can be looked at as making it. The problem with so many people on the bottom, and we'll get to this, is that they are not making it in terms of being able to be self-sustainable. They can't pay their rent. They work for $5, sometimes nothing, at open mics all the time, and they look at, what does it mean to make it? Well, what does it mean to make it? Now, somebody like Erica is a headliner. She gets flown to cities to perform where she is the main attraction and other people are open up for her. That, to me, if that's not making it, then we should all give up. I understand her frustration with the pay stuff, and we've had this conversation offline and online for a couple of years now. I don't know how seriously she takes me. I'm just another guy who is a fan to her, but we have had these conversations, and particularly difficult for women. Coming back to the whole financial aspect of it. Why is it more? Well, first of all, there is still the old school women are not funny belief in a lot of men who run the industry. It's sad, but it's still true in 2023. But beyond that, there is a big difference between female performers and male performers in expenses. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, uh, in every part of, so flying around the country, there all these kinds of expense in travel, in accommodations, in ground travel, and all that stuff in between. Uh, and as a single woman traveling alone, it really you can't cut corners on stuff. Where guys, Sam Talent can get off a plane and just take a cab and not worry too much. Or through but women in particular also have an expense that almost no male comic there's a few people who spend money on wardrobe. You don't see very few guys out there in the comedy world are spending money on wardrobe, but almost all the women are. You see women performing comedy, they're well put together. Erica's included in that. All of them. You could name one, for the most part. Now, I will say I did see one open for Doug Stanhope last year who was in a ripped up, dirty T-shirt. But she was going through a depression at the time, and she's a person who's. But for the most part, I'll just say women have an expense in wardrobe and to wear nice clothes and hair and makeup and all that kind of stuff, which costs money that men don't have. So getting paid less than men and having more expenses than men, it's a struggle. So even if you see somebody like her, wow, she's a star. She's a headliner. She goes everywhere. Everybody knows her. You see her on television. She must be rich. Don't assume that. And living in LA, for the most part, it's super expensive. All that stuff comes into play. So you know the frustration with it. And so part of that, so the conversation went on. I'm going to try to kind of roll with it here, but the way it's broken up now, she said making it doesn't always include dollars. Then I'm just going to try to see the replies here. Mostly me. A guy named Ethan Nicole. He said, I remember when I hit the level, most other comic artists or people in animation saw me as someone who made it. I distinctly didn't feel like I had yet. I decided around that time that I would consider making it a daily thing. At the end of the day, I provided and I didn't give up. I made it. Good for him. Good, and I like that attitude. But he's probably paying his bill. I don't know how still not clear on how he defines making it. But then I replied, I was bemoaning. Now this is a story I've told on the podcast 1,000 times, uh, and if you've heard it, you've heard it. But I tried to condense it. I said I was bemoaning my lack of success with a billionaire who stopped me and told me how I was living his dream. It's too long a story for Twitter, but it was a life-changing perspective shift. I wish every artist who wants more from life could hear. And Erica replied, "It just favors TikTok now." And then I said, "Comedy is a cruel business." To the people who create the art. I don't claim to know how to address that. I know that respect from your peers doesn't pay your bills. Sorry you aren't being compensated for the mastery and you have and the joy you bring to so many people. But I think it's important because we have friends out there. They think they're making it. They think they've been encouraged to keep doing what they're doing because there's evidence that they're making it, because they're getting more stage time. But they're 5 and 10 years into it, and they still can't pay their rent. They're still living off the charity of others. That's not making it. And how do I put this? If we encourage, because this goes back to the affirmations crap I was talking about for the last 3 weeks. And yes, it has a lot to do with my friend Will, who I'm very concerned about, who is being led astray or led to believe he's doing things constructive for his career when in fact he's not getting any closer to how any right-minded person would consider making it, at the very least, being able to pay your bills. Getting trophies for best open micer that night is great, but it won't put food on the table. And as long as you have to live off of somebody else's charity, I don't think you can consider it making it. No matter what level. I don't care if you've headlined, if somebody else is putting food in your mouth, clothes on your back, driving you to your gigs because you can't afford an Uber or you don't have your own car or any of that stuff, you're not making it. And you're not getting any closer to making it by following that path. You can lead on formation. Just keep going. Don't quit. Never give up. That's all it's about. Never giving up. That might be true if you keep doing it for maybe at some point it will dawn on you that there is another way if you don't give up. It's important to have a strategy, though, and a plan. And this is part of the frustration in comedy. It's not that cruel in music. Comedy is the cruelest art form there is in terms of getting not only the respect you deserve for the time you put in and the value you bring to people's lives, the joy you bring to people's lives cannot be discounted and it needs to be compensated fairly. And yes, the TikTok generation is making content creators and comedians feel like they have to do that, but that almost across the board doesn't pay. If you're a content creator, influencer, Instagram creator, or TikTok creator, or Facebook Reels and YouTube Reels, if you want to make a living from that, you really have to do it every waking moment of every day, and you're not going to ever. uh, Odds are very strong that you're not ever going to make the big money. You're not going to be Mr. Beast. You're going to be somebody who, like me, gets a check from YouTube. The biggest check I ever got from YouTube was almost $800, $770 or something like that. Biggest check I ever got from YouTube, and that's doing really well. So you're not going to be unless you have a lot of different revenue streams, Patreon, and all this kind of stuff coming in. You're not going to be able to make a living from that. It's good to have, but people get fooled into believing they need to be there because that's how their audiences find them. That's why the audiences come to the show. Maybe to a certain extent, but you don't need to be there every day. And unless you plan on monetizing it as your main source of income, you don't need to be on there every day, constantly doing it. I think there's a lot of mythology around, and because Steve Byrne was at an airport last week, and he was doing jokes with his phone for Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, and he put out the sentiment that he didn't want to do it, but he felt like he had to do it because his audience needs fresh new content every day. I think you have to give your audience a little more credit for loyalty and not not being so needy. We don't need fresh content from the people we admire every day. I would, Steve Byrne, Erica Rhodes, Doug Stanhope, you name it, the comedians that I am a fan of, I'll go see them if they're reasonably local, whether they're putting out TikTok content, daily content or not. Because it's that. But I do think and Craig came back to me, our friend Craig Johnson, who I love dearly. He said, "It was a joke, Dad." And I said, you know what? Right from the beginning, I said it was a joke, and it was a funny joke. I get it. I get why it was a funny joke. But my concern and where I feel like I have to address this is because so many people do look up to Erica. So many people that got turned on to her by me continually saying how great she was and found out about her, comedians I'm talking about, who are in the life and now look up to her as the model for making it. And if she says she's not making it, what does that do to their mindset, their whole attitude towards what making it really means? Here's somebody, and I hate to overuse the word, but one of the heroes, somebody who you look up to and you say, man, if I could only get to be where Erica Rhodes is right now, I'd feel like my life in comedy was solid. And then she says something like she doesn't feel like she's making it. Her friends want her to make it so she can get off their couch. That blows a hole in not only your strategy, your confidence, but your belief and attitudes about what making it really is. So that was my only reason for addressing that. It wasn't to try to argue with Erica because and I don't think she took it that way. I think she genuinely, and I don't know this for a fact, but I think she genuinely appreciated the comments and where I was coming from. Um, but I have had conversation with her on and off air over the last 2 years about this idea of making it pay in comedy. And so last night, and I don't know how many people who are not in the business care about this or know about this or any of it. There was a writer's strike for the major studios. The Writers West, I believe is the union. I don't know. They went on strike because the heads of these studios um, are making $1 billion. They picked out in the argument and why in their reasoning why they decided to strike is that the heads of the studios, and they picked out a handful and added their salaries together, were making close to $1 billion. Meanwhile, the people who create the content, the writers who make the shows work, can't pay their rent. I don't know that's true. I mean, I don't know how much is exaggerated, and because when you hear these things on social media, you want to just immediately your instinct is to say, "Wow, they can't pay their rent." You're writing for a major television show, you can't pay your rent. So statistically, wise, it doesn't really matter if they really truly can't pay their rent or if that's an exaggeration. They're not being compensated fairly compared to the guys who just sit at a desk and yes and green light and red light things and get paid $100 million a year. The disparity is there, but that's so. Erica continued. Writers are on strike because the writers don't make it for more money. Meanwhile, she's there writing content on Twitter for free. The there is an equivalency here with the studio owners and the writers who make nothing, and the comedy club owners and comedy club chain owners making bank while the comedians sometimes make zero. Now, Erica said $20. I'm here right. Most comedians, she said, most writers are striking for more money. Meanwhile, most comedians are uh, fine with making $20 at a local bar. And I did not write this because I did not want to become a totally annoying prick about this stuff. But the truth is, a lot of the comedians I know, $20 would mark a significant payday because they're used to getting nothing or $5 or a drink. Yeah, here's your pay, a drink. Yeah, I know it doesn't put gas in your car, food on the table, any of that stuff. And you are the reason people came to my club tonight. Here's $5. Or here's nothing. And or here's a thank you and a handshake, if you're lucky. $20. Most sad to fucking say, it's heartbreaking to say. Most of the comedians who've been on this program who are not household names. They're working class comedians. Most of them work too often for less than $20, and for most of them, a $20 payday would be, hey, I'm onto something here. Now all I have to do is increase. I'm on my way to making it. Look, I got paid $20. Now, if somebody wants to argue that I'm wrong there, I'm all ears. I mean, all this shit that I'm babbling, obviously, is the opinion of a guy who's not in that world right now. I am in the entertainment business. I am gigging, at least until Sunday, where I might get murdered or might murder somebody else or might go to jail or any of that kind of stuff. But for the time being, I am in show business to a certain extent and far less talented than most of the comedians who've been on this program and bring a lot less value to people's lives than some of the comedians that I've had on this program and make a lot more, like hundreds of times more. And it's not fair. Why it is and how we address that and how we get comedians fairly compensated. Listen, I don't want to say that horse has left the stable. How you get it back in the stable? The genie's out of the bottle. They Comedians agree, and here's the problem with both writers and comedians: is the club owners or the studio owners know how many people want that job, and they don't care about quality. They really don't care about quality. All they care about is that you will keep people coming. They can continue to produce shows with a body in that spot, even if it's shitty content. And that this is true from the shows that you see and the movies and television shows and all that stuff that you see. The writing has gone downhill. It really has. I mean, the quality of writing. Now there are some quality writers out there, and I'm not disparaging every writer, but if studio executives know that you're just filling the seat for 1,000 people who want your job and can do it maybe not quite as well, but to a satisfactory standard that product gets put out, they don't fucking care. And the same with the comedy store, club owners. Comedy store. I'm sorry, comedy store. I didn't mean to single you out, but Mitzi started this shit. To be honest with you, not paying people, and we've had the comedy strike in over this 35 years ago now. But the idea that comedy club owners understand that if a comedian isn't happy with what they're getting paid, I'll get somebody else. There are now, if you're in the comedy business and you don't like your job, we have 10,000 people ready to replace you in a minute. I can make a phone call and have 10,000 people apply for your job. So it's a difficult thing. How do you manage that economics of supply and demand when the supply of people who call themselves comedians, it's just a matter of calling you, putting that I'm a comedian. That's all you got to say. Well, how have you worked? Well, I've been I've been getting nothing for doing open mic nights for the last 5 years. I'm a comedian, and I'm there the minute somebody who's getting paid isn't happy with their pay, and I'll work for less. And if they know that, what is their incentive for paying you more? To be friendly to you? Capitalism is not about making friends. It's about making money for for the investors. Sad state, but such as it is. I got some good coffee today. By the way, you're free to. The chat rooms have been a little quiet on my rants for the last couple of days. Um, oh, did I mention? Did I even mention? I don't think I even mentioned. Did I? I didn't even put the overlay in. Did I? The apps. I gotta put the overlay in. The apps are now available for uh, both iOS and whoop. Well, that's not pretty. You can scan that, but I meant to make that transparent. We'll have to we'll have to do it tomorrow. But or you can just go to Apple App Store and look for Mind Dog Radio, or Google Play and look for Mind Dog Radio. Or there's a link for Google Play on minddogtv.com, and you can get the apps. Please do get the apps and leave us a positive review and support this program in that way. If you want to go to Yelp and leave a negative review for a certain meatball restaurant in Patchogue, New York, that wouldn't hurt either. But I'm not saying you should do that, but couldn't hurt. I don't like to be vengeful. Anyway, I was talking about coffee, and today's show is brought to you by Koa Coffee, and I'm glad that I got some good Koa coffee because yesterday was a sluggish day without my Koa coffee. I'll be right back. I'm going to go get a fresh cup right now. I hope you do too. This episode is brought to you by Koa Coffee. If you are a coffee connoisseur and want to experience the best coffee Hawaii has to offer, no blends, no compromise, try the true taste of aloha. Koa Coffee produces premium Hawaiian coffee, hand-picked, expertly roasted, and delivered from Hawaii to your door with aloha. From award-winning 100% Kona coffee grown on the slopes of the Mauna Loa volcano to the unique mocha beans of Maui, they strive to provide their loyal customers with the best quality and freshness. Since 1997, Koa Coffee has been known far and wide as a product of utmost quality, and their awards prove it. Koa Coffee was featured in Forbes' Top 10 Coffees of the World. This is the coffee Forbes called the best coffee in America. Find out what it's all about. Go to minddogtv.com/coffee. Yeah. Okay. All righty. Now that's goofy music.
My dog is your mind's best friend.
I don't really know about that, but we try to be friendly to everybody. By the way, I am not. When we do this in the morning, if you're on the Gov's Radio network, we don't see your comments. So if you want to either write to the comments are not included in the many different comment sections that we see. We see LinkedIn, we see YouTube, we see Twitch, we see a lot of different places like that. But we're not seeing your comments if you're on Gov. So if you want me to actually know what you're thinking about the crap I say every morning, you write to me at info@minddogtv, or join us on Facebook or YouTube or wherever the hell we are, all those platforms. Robert Taylor Comedy has a comment. By the way, this shirt is Robert Taylor's. It's available at his site at roberttaylorcomedy.com. I don't know if you can see that. Here we go. And I hope you'll support him. Robert's a funny guy. So also from the comics perspective, too many new comics are in the game to make it instead of focusing on the funny first. Definitely true. I think that's not exclusive to comedy. I think, this is something I've said about all the performing arts. Let me back up a little bit here, but there's a lot to be said here. First of all, this is true again across the board in the performing arts, is that whatever idea people get about making it, if that's your reason, that's the goal, then you're not focusing on creating really great art. It's just you can't be focused on two different things. It's just a fact. It's that's why lion tamers with the chair. I know this is an old fucking cliche analogy, but lion tamers with the chairs. The reason that chair works well in keeping lions at bay is those four prongs that come off the bottom of the chair present the lion with the challenge. Where do I focus? There's too many things to focus on here. So if you're focused on making it, you can't be focused on creating great art. I don't think most people give a fuck. Most people who get into it, I think we live in a culture because of, I don't want to blame hip hop, but that whole mindset of cribs and bling and cars and money make it seem like that is the goal rather than that is the reward for doing great work. In other words, if you do great art, if you create great art, for the most part, you will be recognized and be compensated for it in the long run. Now, this is one of the things I'm sure that Erica is struggling with because she's at the top of a game in creating great comedy and not walking around blinging and driving a Lambo and all the things we see in cribs. Probably doesn't even have a fancy crib, you know. So that but that takes patience and all that. But if that is your reason for doing it, chances are you're never going to create great work. And I think as a culture, we've become accepting of that. Where, listen, Bert Kreischer, perfect example. Bert Kreischer. Bert Kreischer is not a funny guy. I'm sorry. I know it's subjective and all that stuff. Bert Kreischer is a marketing guy. He doesn't create great art. He has built up a name for himself and a reputation that and Joe Rogan too as a top comedian. But if you go to their shows or watch their specials, you look for the great comedy in there, and you're like, I must have missed it. And I would put this challenge to Kreischer fans, Rogan fans. I could probably name a few others out there, and I don't mean to be mean to these people, but I could put out a challenge that find the funny, find the really great comedy in any of their work, and show it to me. I will be surprised if anybody takes me up on that. But we see that across the board, like in music, in television, in movies. It's not about doing great work anymore for a lot of people, for too many people. And I think when we talk about the competition and the influx of everybody's and their grandmother is now wanting to be a comedian, since it seems like COVID upped the ante on that because a lot of comedians were stuck doing digital comedy. And if I don't have to go out to a comedy stage, I can do it from home. Hey, I'm on equal footing with the top of the game, and that made encourage a lot of people to get into it. But they got into it for the wrong reasons. So it's not even so much the the quantity of people getting into it is the quantity of people who got into it for the wrong reasons, with the wrong expectations, the wrong goals. This idea that if you're making it almost always includes fame. Fame. And I've touched on this so many times in 1,500 interviews now, is that fame is a residual reward for doing great work. It is not a goal in and of itself. Bert Kreischer has fame. He's rich. That sets a poor example. But he was born rich, to be fair. He was born silver spoon rich. But it sets a poor example for the people coming up behind him and think, well, that's all I really want. I just want the life that Bert Kreischer has. I just want to be marginally funny to my friends and convince large numbers of people to pay to see me thinking that I'm really funny when they can't really. Pulling my shirt off is the epitome of my art. That's as good as my art gets, is pulling my shirt off. Sad. And again, I know I touched base on this yesterday with going over Robert Klein's work. The amount of work that used to go into writing and performing a special, nobody considers that anymore. Now, a special is what I've been doing in comedy clubs for the last 6 months or a year, and just tape it, do some good editing on it, make it look broadcast quality, and call it a special. No thought of production, no thought of continuity, no thought of presentation in the typical presentation art form. You tell them what you're going to tell them, you tell them, and then you told them what you already tell them. That kind of beginning, middle, and end structure to presentation. None of that goes into it. So this is where we're left with the declining state of the art. It's sad to see. It's apparent across the board, and why this is becomes even more amplified in the case of people in Southern California is because most of them, that's probably a generalization, many of them, many people who are doing comedy in Southern California are not in it for comedy. They're not comedy purists. They don't even know the history of their own art form. They are in it as a stepping stone to a television show or to, a part in a movie or getting noticed and getting famous. It's all about that. It's not about creating great work. So that was a disturbing thing, conversation with Erica last night about this. And again, I have no doubt or fears for the money coming her way soon enough. I'm not going to be holding any charity events for Erica Rhodes because I do believe that the world is ready to compensate her fairly. Now, maybe not as fairly as Dave Chappelle or Kevin Hart or Jerry Seinfeld, who's a billionaire from this, or Larry David, who became a billionaire from this, but to far beyond where I defined making it earlier. But I am concerned for my friends or the people I've interviewed on this program, hundreds of them now, who are struggling to actually make it and have the right attitude about doing great work and being patient and strategizing their career in a way that and understanding what how you define making it makes all the difference to your happiness and fulfillment in your art form. I talked about this a little bit yesterday in my early 30s, where I realized, and this, I don't encourage people to kind of embrace the idea that you might not be the next Louis C.K. You might not be the next. I'm using older references on purpose because these are guys who seem to come out of nowhere, and even though they did put in some years of hard work, they seem to come out of nowhere and make it rich and become famous and be playing for arenas. Louis C.K., Dane Cook, those kind of people. You might not be destined for that big stage. But in my case, I looked at it as, you know what? You're not going to be a rock star. Eye opening. You are not meant to be the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. You're meant to be not even Nickelback. I'm sorry. No, Nickelback is super successful monetarily, but I mean, in terms of respect and all that, you're not going to be a superstar. You're not. You don't have the talent for it. You don't have the extras that you need beyond uh, your ability and skills that you learn, meaning looks and all the marketable assets that you would need to become a superstar. and timing, destiny, and all that kind of stuff. It's not in your favor, but there is something to be said for living the life that you want, creating on your own terms, living the life you want on your own terms, creating art that fulfills you, that other people appreciate, and not only pays your bills, but allows you to own a home, put kids through college, and live a normal life like anybody working a regular job would, but you're doing it on your terms. To me, if you realign your um, measure of success with that principle of being able to take care of yourself and your family and do what you love and live life by your own rules, what's more successful than that? And that goes back to the story about the billionaire who I met, who told me I was living his dream. And he was ready, willing, and not able to trade places with me, trade lives with me at this point in his life, because he realized that even though I had a fraction, a small fraction of the dollar amount wealth that he I had wealth that he could never attain, in that I lived my life by my own rules, was able to support myself doing things I love. And what's better than that? And so he, according to, now talk is cheap, but according to him in that moment, he would have given up the billions, the mansion, and all of the things he's gained monetarily in order to live my non-rock star musician life. With a perspective change and a mind shift change that I really wish that every artist who wants more out of life would be able to experience. Now, for me, it came in my 50s. If that would have came in my 30s, I might not have been in a place to receive it, but it certainly would have been welcome at this point. Looking back, I wish I would have heard that, because it would have helped me have peace of mind in that what I was doing was actually working. And there's pride, pride is a dangerous um, thing, which is why it's one of the seven deadly sins. But you have to have some pride in what you do, and you have to feel like you're contributing something of value, or that's where depression comes from, right? Like, what's the point of my life? I'm just going to a job I hate, making money, and this is and part of the reason so many people want to be in the arts now is they're sitting in a cubicle and they're looking up and saying, I took this job for a paycheck. I didn't take this job because I love marketing, or I love, uh, accounting, or I love accounts payable, or I love, procurement, or whatever their cubicle happens to be assigned with the task. They didn't get into it because they love that stuff. They might have gone to school for it and got trained in it. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, I'm just looking for my paycheck on Friday and 3 days off so I can. And then Sunday night comes and they dread that Monday is here and I got to do it again. I wish there was a better way. Maybe comedy. Maybe I'll just, because it looks so easy, right? They all make it look so easy. Bert Kreischer makes it look easy to get rich. I'm sorry to be picking on Bert. I don't have a better example in mind. I haven't slept well. There are many, many examples of people who are cashing in without creating great art. And that does a disservice to everyone across the board, not just the people in the industry who are working hard trying to create great art, but also for the consumers, you and me. We get stuck and get conditioned to settle for crap. I don't know if this writer strike is even going to make it through the day, or if it will be one of these things that will go on for years. You never know with with strikes and unions, and I'm not particularly familiar with the case of the union that is going on strike, because it's America Writers West, and I'm not sure if East Coast writers are excluded from that. And Here's where this whole, and I will wrap this up and get the fuck out of here. Uh, One of the things that becomes confusing now, and which creates a special challenge for writers on strike, content creators are everywhere. The idea of this scabs, people who are union busters who come in and fill the jobs of people who are on strike, is everybody who's online and an influencer or creating content for so many of the digital platforms, are they scabs now? Are they helping the studio owners keep the writers down? Look, all these people out there working, we can just call one of them up and replace you. Most of them probably would take the job. Who wouldn't? Studio calls and says, You know what? We see you doing TikTok videos and we're impressed. We'd like to offer you $50,000 a year to come write for a major show." For $50,000, I ain't never made that much in my life doing TikTok videos. Yes, I'll take it. And so then you go out to LA and realize that $50,000 does not pay the rent, doesn't pay for any of your bills, and almost $50,000 a year is almost the poverty line in some of the major metropolises, which is so fucking bizarre to say, but it's true. I'm not saying they're living in abject poverty, but $50,000 in LA probably at best gets you a studio apartment uh, and a really cheap piece of shit car, no health insurance. I mean, that's the kind of shit you get. So I don't know how long the writer's strike is going to last, but it seems that the odds are against them because we are all, everybody who's creating content is making it harder for them to make their case. It's just like look, we're lining up to show the world, even if they don't call you up and say offer you the job, they can use you as a negotiating pawn. Look at all these fucking content creators, and you have the audacity to walk out of a job that pays you 50,000, 75,000, whatever it is a year. You have the audacity to walk away from that when all these people would kill to have your job. And look at them. We could call them. We're all being that. So I don't think we all play into the hands of the writers and the creative people in the struggle. I think we all are helping. And when I say we all, I include myself in this. And I'm torn because I don't want to. I want to see writers and creators fairly compensated, and I don't want to be used as a pawn, even though nobody's going to be calling me to offer me. And listen, I probably wouldn't take it, to be honest with you. They called me up and said, "We want you to write for such and such television show." Be like, my life is over, man. I'm just riding out this roller coaster. Get somebody younger, get somebody with more ambition than me. I don't have that ambition. So, um, it would have to be an awful lot of it would have to be real money, more than I can uh, make for myself living here by far, and enough to totally rock my whole my whole family life and all that stuff and change everything about my life. Well, I wouldn't take that, but the writers union doesn't know that. They see me out there, and I'm just using myself as an example. I'm not saying if you think ego is in here, and I'm thinking I deserve to be called by Hollywood to replace one of the writers on strike. That's not what I'm saying, and believe me, that thought I don't think I am qualified in any way. But the writers union does not know that I have that attitude, and they see me and a billion, not billion, a lot of people like me, millions of people like me out there creating content, and the studio heads will just say, "Look, you can be replaced," just like the comedy club are looking online and saying, Have you seen the comedy groups on Facebook? You know how many comedians are in those groups we could call up to replace you? So yes, you're going to be a opener or a feature, and no, there's no pay in it. Want it? If you say no, you know somebody else is going to take your spot. Yeah, I'll take it. Hopefully, hoping it could either network with somebody or lead to a better opportunity. Chances are, the more that happens, the less likely those opportunities are going to come. Not a very hopeful message. But I thought for people who do see me online and see me making these arguments, they're thinking, why is he making this argument to Erica Rose? It wasn't an argument with Erica Rose. It was stating the case for the people I know who follow her because I've influenced them to follow her and are trying to be what she is. And I don't want them to get the wrong idea or get caught up in the idea that making it is about rich and famous. We all would love to be rich. Famous. I used to want that. Now I think fame brings with it more bullshit and heartache and nonsense. Listen, even on my small level, I'm being canceled by some dipshit who had no reason. A stranger who just doesn't like the content I'm creating and wanted to cancel me. Fame creates that a large segment of people, no matter how good you are or how bad you are, it doesn't matter. People will hate, and fame will bring a lot of hate and a lot of bullshit and a lot of that kind of stuff. Not good. So I'm not a big fan of fame. I That's why I like flying under the radar to a certain extent. And so when you look at the guests and the people that I really want to have on the program, it's never about what can they do to increase the awareness or make this show more popular or more famous in any way. It's always about the merit of the art. And that's why I take people who are either just starting out or struggling working journeymen or people who have made their mark so long ago that the young people don't even know about them. And just trying to um, have some serious, deep conversations about the creation of the art, the motivations behind it, and all that kind of stuff. That's about all I have to say for today. I think I'm talked out. An hour and 17 minutes, an hour and 18 minutes in. I think I've rambled enough. The last couple of days, I've done a lot of this. I don't have a guest scheduled for tomorrow day yet. I have one for tomorrow night. A transformational coach, life coach. Yeah, we haven't had a lot of them. Anyway, we'll be talking to one of those tomorrow night with uh, a name that is going to be hard for me to pronounce, so I'm not even going to try it right now. Um, but Kilakili will be here on Thursday. I might have a comedian guest for tomorrow. I don't know. I don't have one scheduled yet, but I'll be working on it the rest of today. Kilakili will be with me on Thursday. And who'll be with me on Friday? I have somebody booked for Friday as well. Another comedian for Friday. Hold on. Yeah, Stephen Marcus Relaford will be with us on Friday. Cinco de Mayo. Now, that's the show for today. Oh, wait. Matt, question. Why do you put so much time into pods? Your life is over and you're not into the success that fame could bring you. I enjoy it. Simple as that, Mike. I enjoy talking to comedians. I enjoy talking to musicians. Listen, when I to have I think I talked about this so many times already. For me, going to a show and meeting somebody at a meet and greet, let's say a comedy show, when there's a meet and greet afterwards, and you get to shake the hands and say hello to a comedian for the most part. somebody who you think is like, wow, an inspiration, somebody you were really a fan of. You get to talk to them for 2 minutes, and that's it. And then it's gone, and they're out of your life, and you forget them. I have the privilege. This offers me the opportunity to have in-depth, really meaningful conversations with people who mean the world to me. To be able to talk to Robert Klein, I think it's next week, if I'm still alive next week, if I'm not murdered on Sunday, or if I'm not in jail for murdering somebody else on Sunday. I think next week I'm going to get the opportunity to talk to Robert Klein. That is a life's quest for me, to be able to sit down with a hero, and I am going to use that word, a hero from uh, from the arts, and really pick his brain, and not just talk about his latest, plug his next show or all that kind of stuff, but to talk about the inspirations and how he created great art, and his attitude about how he went into doing the work that he does. That is my main fulfillment. That's what I get out of doing this stuff, and that's what excites me. And I can even get that to a small extent from talking to people who are just beginning or have been in it for a little while, just to see where they're at and say, wow, um, I, that's a perspective I haven't considered before. And also to hear different perspectives on everything across the board, whether it has to do with the arts or not, just life in general. It's a learning process for me. I really enjoy this. I mean, Mike, I know you weren't, you know, um, maybe aware of me, but this is where I started in life. I was a radio talk show host and got canceled from that, and always wanted to continue doing that. And it got taken away from me because of my own bad behavior, my stupid behavior. Um, and so when podcasting came along, it was an opportunity to get back into it without having to beg for a job, without having to give a resume that had my past mistakes on it. Oh, you're the F bomb guy who got, you know, no, we're not going to hire a guy who can't control himself and will drop an F bomb on the air. So I could never get back in radio. I've been trying, believe me. And I've been trying even recently to get back into terrestrial radio. They won't have me because I'm the F bomb guy. So podcasting is my solution. I'm my own boss. And I can't be canceled from this. The one thing in life I can't be fired from is this. And so, yeah, that's why I do it. I hope that answered the question. Yeah. Uh, that's what podcasts are about, talking, not whoring yourself out for fame. If Napo is a hole, he is a classy one. I am definitely a hole. Ask anybody; they'll tell you, "Yeah, he's a hole. What a hole." Thank you, AW. Who is AW? That's not Becky, is it? I don't know. I don't know. I see AW in here a lot, and I don't know who you really are. I'm sorry about that. I because Becky has an icon that looks a lot like yours, but I think hers she's got a very long handle. Anyway, I appreciate that comment, AW. I really do. Um, I don't know what if I'm adding any value. Hopefully, it's and some of the comedians who I've had these conversations with have said that I've made a difference in how they approach their career, and I'm hopeful that I do make a difference. We all want to feel like s- something we do matters. I think that's the struggle, the human struggle, is feeling like our life matters in any way. And this is the closest I come to being able to add any value. Now, I will say a lot of the good deeds I've tried have gone nowhere and been pretty discouraging. You know, we could start with the potathon, where we tried to raise $30,000 for a cancer patient and only got to $28,000, and I thought that was a failure. And the next one, um, when we did one for. We never made our goal. We set high goals, but we never made our goals in these fundraisers for the charitable things we do, and then like even the contests and stuff, where you try to give people something of value, and thinking this would be a nice thing to do. It would add value to some people's lives, and you know, it ends up being a clusterfuck of work and expense and consuming you to the point where it drives you down where you don't want to even fucking be a person who does good deeds anymore. You want to just walk away and say, you know what, everybody for themselves. The me, the me generation. They used to say that about the boomers. Boomers were more, and I don't want to get into that whole fucking thing now. Okay, I've talked long enough today. But I think right now we are living in the time of me. Me is all that matters to so many people. Hopefully, I'm in it to try to make a small dent in that attitude. I don't know if it's working. Appreciate it. Anyway, uh, AW says I found your podcast randomly when Stanhope was. I can't uh, be grateful enough to Doug Stanhope, and I know he doesn't like hearing this, and hopefully he won't. Nobody will forward this to him, but extremely grateful for the trajectory he made in my life by bringing a lot of awareness to what I'm doing here, just by being a guest more than once, where the first time was an accident, just a whim from day drinking thing, but then agreeing to do it again and again. Um, he doesn't want the world to know that he's a good guy. I think he wants the world to think he's curmudgeonly. He even said on Twitter the other day, "I have hate issues." I think he's got love issues, big time. Doug Stanhope's a good guy, and I will never say anything but Doug Stanhope is a great guy, which I know pisses him off. He doesn't want to hear that. He's a great guy. He did good for me. Did good for people like Sam Talent. He did good for a lot of people that most people don't even know. He does good without wanting recognition for it. That's what that makes you a good person in my eyes. So. Anyway, that's the show for today. I appreciate the show again. It's just me rambling 2 days in a row now of me nonstop rambling for an hour and a half. I appreciate you putting up with it. I would appreciate more feedback on it, though, on the things I'm saying. You can disagree with me, and set me straight if I am wrong. I would appreciate that. Again, to the people on Gov. Please write to me if you're not going to join in our chat rooms on the live stuff. Live 365, the apps are out. Please, I'm just going to show, if you want to scan this thing, I'm going to leave this up while I talk, right? I'll talk over this. That little QR code, you can scan that to get the apps for Live 365 radio. Now, this is 24/7 radio on Mind Dog TV. Now, all the shows, including If Dykes and Man ever fucking resumes again, and this show and my evening show are streamed live on there. But when we're not live on there, there is a mix of some great music, including, did you hear that? Jordan Peterson who just popped into my vocal cords. I got to get him out of there. A mix of some great music, including the late Gordon Lightfoot, who just recently passed, but wide mix from jazz to rock and roll to country, pop, hip hop, a wide mix, and also some of your favorite comedians mixed in. So it's a real good listen. I hope you'll check it out. You will help me out tremendously by doing that. And if you leave a good review in your app store, I really appreciate it. I would come and mow your lawn. I'll wash your car, whatever it takes. Leave me a good review. I would really appreciate it. So that's the show for today. Now back to where the exit door is. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming. Bye for now. Have a great day.
to me, listen to me, listen to me now. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me now. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me now.